Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. Today we're going to be talking about Dungeons and Dragons, fun facts about the movie, plus some of the history behind it, like the beginning of Dungeons and Dragons in general, not just the movie, the whole game in general, and who invented it. So let's get right into that. So in the early 1970s, Gary Gygax lost his job at an insurance company in Chicago, living with his family in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Wisconsin. He started working as a cobbler as a replacement gig, but money was tight, and his children had to put cardboard in the bottom of their shoes instead of buying new pairs. Little did Gygax know that his luck would soon change. Obviously, Dungeons and Dragons, the fantasy role-playing game he co-created with Dave Arneson, became a national phenomenon. In the tabletop simulation, players craft their own characters and backstories, becoming anyone from a barbarian to a sorcerer. Working collaboratively over multiple sessions, they explore a fantasy world designed by game's all-knowing narrator, the dungeon master, who masterminds the various puzzles and battles the adventurer must face. Ben Riggs, author of Slaying the Dragon, A Secret History of Dungeons and Dragons, says the game initially proved popular among players like Gygax, who felt they hadn't yet found a place for themselves in society. He adds, you have to start there with very intelligent people, but people who also feel like they're not part of the fabric and maybe aren't going anywhere. Since its debut in 1974, D&D has only grown in popularity. No longer a niche game, it's been played by more than 50 million people to date, according to Wizards of the Coast, the Hasbro division that owns D&D. The game has also moved beyond the tabletop to other mediums, including television, books, and movies. The latest adaptation, a film titled Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, and it's arrived back in March 31st of 2023, starring Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, and Regé-Jean Page of Bridgerton fame. Honor Among Thieves is set in a fantasy D&D world. Also, the other girl, I don't know her real name. I think she comes in a little later, but she's from It Chapter 1. She's the little redhead girl. I can't remember her name, but if you guys know the name, please comment below. It follows a band of thieves who attempt to recover their loot from an ex-member of their crew who betrayed them and used magic to seize control of the kingdom in honor of the game's turn on silver screen, as well as its upcoming 50th anniversary. There are 14 fun facts about the history of D&D, but we will not get into that because I want to get into the fun facts of the movie. So here are 15 fun facts. Despite not being involved in the production of credited for his work, Forgotten Realms creditor Ed Greenwood loved the movie, saying it was a film that D&D fans could be proud of without having to defend the game to non-fans, and he even mentioned that he planned on seeing it multiple times. He was also happy to see his creation adapted faithfully on the big screen. Chris Pine agreed to appear because of the role of Edgin. Edgin is very atypical for a fantasy film leading man, and because he sat on his nephew playing a D&D campaign and saw how much fun he and his friends were having. Regé-Jean Page improvised the scene where Zenk steps right over the boulder, barely even breaking his stride. All the spells used in the film, while largely unnamed, are all spells used in Dungeons and Dragons tabletop role RPG. I'm guessing that's role-playing game. And the director opened up about Monty Python's influence on the film, with Jonathan Goldstein explaining that while the creative team wanted to make a comedy, they didn't want to mock the source material. We never want to go too far where it becomes a spoof of fantasy films. But we also wanted to be able to pivot from something creepy and traditional in fantasy to an absurd, almost Monty Python type sequence, the director said. Number 6, the Wizards of the Coast made stat blocks for the main characters showing their abilities and attributes. Number 7, so it's not the first Dungeons and Dragons movie. The first one hit theaters in December of 2000, starred Justin Wall and Marlon Wayans, Thora Birch, and Jeremy Irons' its two direct-to-DVD sequels were released in 2005 and 2012. However, there's no connection between that trilogy and Honor Among Thieves. The first film was loosely based on the campaign setting Mystera, while Honor Among Thieves is set in the Forgotten Realms. Number 8, the new film is also preceded by an animated series that ran for 3 seasons in the 80s. Number 9, John Francis Daly, one of the writers and directors, starred in Freaks and Geeks as Sam, who can be seen playing D&D in the series finale. Number 10, Daly and his Honor Among Thieves co-writer Jonathan Goldstein have worked together before penning a number of movies, including Horrible Bosses and its sequel Game Night and Spider-Man Homecoming. Number 11, Bradley Cooper had already seen the movie before filming his cameo. Daly, who'd worked with Cooper on Kitchener Confidential in 2005, told Variety, "We had thought about a really fun cameo for this first part. It was sent to his agent, but I sent him a letter later saying, like, it'd be fun to play again. I got a text from him from a number I didn't recognize, so saying, yo, is this still John? And I said, who is this? Because, yeah, I've gotten weird texts before from strangers. He said, BC from Casey. I'm like, what? Quote, Kitchen Confidential. And I'm like, quote, oh, poop. Quote, I immediately called him. He had just seen the film. He called it a triumph, which almost made me cry because it had been a real long process working on this thing. And he was like, I'm on board, sign me up, end quote. Number 13, the cast and crew played an hours-long game of D&D to help uninitiate learn about the game. Reggae John Page, who plays Zank, told this is number 13, told Screen Rant, Screen Rant, it was chaotic. Folks are very, very quickly and improvisational on this cast, and it's essentially an improv game, and so everyone's playing, yes, and so you think of the wildest, craziest things you can do, and then you have the privilege of having Chris Pine sit next to you, and he'll take that and run with it and blow it up and make it crazier. Michelle Rodriguez is on the other side. She blows it up, makes it even crazier than that. Number 14, Page himself did some improvising, specifically the moment where Zank steps over a boulder to walk off into the sunset uninterrupted. And lastly, Chris Pine's character, Edgin, was originally different from what we see on screen. Pine told Slash Film, I think originally he may have skewed a bit more roguish, not in terms of the character roguish, in terms of gruff and easily frustrated. Let's say, I guess, what I found in reading it was I found Edgin to be really bright and kind of buoyant. So there you guys have it, 15 fun facts of Dungeons and Dragons. I'm curious to know what you guys think of what you guys thought of the movie, and if you guys play yourself. We have time for a couple more facts, so let's get into it. Daisy Head, who plays Sophina, is the daughter of Anthony Head of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Merlin, and more recently Ted Lasso fame. There are several pieces of prequel literature tied to the movie. Sophie Lilly's character Doric is the main character of the Druids Call, a young adult novel written by E.K. Johnston, while Jelly Johnston's adult novel The Road to Neverwinter centers Edgin. A D&D expert was on set to help make sure the rules were followed when possible. We had an advisor on set who knew all the rules inside and out, and she would lean in and tell us, okay, for this spell, technically, you'd have to do this and this. Goldstein told Polygon, so we would try to honor those things in the opportunity we had, but ultimately the movie had to come first, so if it felt like we were deciding between a rule or a plot point, we needed to move the action forward, and we would err on the side of the plot. Wow, so that's pretty cool though, what you guys how to get things accurate like that if you're not one person to play that game, or if you don't know anything about it. It is really interesting to hear about it. Anyways, that's it for me. You all have a great rest of your day, and we'll chat soon. Bye now.